This episode of the Juan of Words podcast is brought to you by our friends at Comcast Houston, who we are very proud to be working with. And they recently awarded through their Comcast Rise investment fund in the community of Houston in the entrepreneur
At the price of how much?
They invested $1 million.
They sure did. To how many? To how many?
To 100 businesses. They each received $10,000. So
there's a lot that you can do with $10,000 in your business.
Yeah, and we are grateful for Comcast for their support of our small business and for the support of other small businesses. So enjoy the podcast, and thank you to our friends at Comcast.
Enjoy the rest of the episode.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Juan of Words podcast. I'm Juan Alanis, and on this episode, we're talking to our friends from Lone Star College here in Houston, who is a local community college that has 4 campuses in the greater Houston area. If you've been listening to our podcast the last couple of episodes, you just wrapped up our Lovers Road Trip recap, which was a 3-part series we did from Houston to San Diego. We kind of talked about all the things that we saw and experienced along the road, from our little mishaps with customer service in between to getting to Disneyland and being big kids at Disneyland for the first time. But on this episode, I'm speaking to a few folks from the Lone Star College here in Houston, and they were sharing about a program that they have that's called the Puente Program. So you'll hear more about that in the interview. But yeah, tune in, listen up, and if you think that anybody could benefit from this content, share it with them and let them know that this program exists and that Lone Star College in Houston has several options available for them. So enjoy. Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for watching. If you're tuning in now or if you're watching us on replay, we appreciate you being here. My name is Juan Alanis. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Juan of Words podcast, and I'm excited to be here on this Facebook Live. I've got a couple of guests with me today that I think you all are going to be really excited to hear about because it really is that time of year where we're all thinking about, either getting back in school or getting our kids back in school, maybe we're dropping them off at college, maybe we're like starting just a school year off and then they're going to another grade level. But I'm excited. I have Adriana Gonzalez, who works in recruitment for Lone Star College. And I also have Dr. Christopher Hinojosa, who also works for Lone Star College, and he heads up a very interesting program that you all have at Lone Star College in Texas, which is the Puente Program. So before we kind of go too far into the conversation, I am going to ask you guys to tell me a little bit more about the Puente Program. So, but before doing that, I just want to share, this is really personal for me right now because my kid just graduated from high school and he's just starting college. So, it's very timely. and I understand the work that you all do is really important to the community and really important to getting more Latinos through college. So, Dr. Hinojosa, you can start and kind of tell us a little bit more about yourself and tell us a little bit more about the Puente Program. I think it's a really exciting program that people should know about.
Sure, great. I'll do that. First of all, Juan, thank you very much for the opportunity and having us on here to talk about these really important issues for the community at large. So as much as I would love to let you keep doing it, it's not doctor yet. We're close, but not there yet. So Christopher is fine. Chris is fine.
Okay. Awesome.
But yeah, so let me tell you a little bit about it, and I'll give kind of a brief synopsis, and then we can kind of get into the deeper discussions of it a little bit later. But Puente started in California at a community college called Chabot Community College, right? And I think it started in 1981. There were two key members, two key people in the development of Puente. One was a counselor, Felix Galaviz, and another one was an English instructor named Patricia McGrath, right? And they started to notice at their community college a recurring trend of lower success levels from their Mexican American and Latino students, right? And that was a majority demographic at that college, right? And so they said, they're not succeeding at the levels that we would like them to begin with, and then beyond that, even some of the students who are succeeding are not necessarily moving on to what the next step would logically be, which is a transfer to a big state school or to somewhere else to continue their education. And whether their next step would be, a certificate or an associate's or moving to a bachelor's or whatever, they were seeing a kind of a stopping point, right? Or people failing to reach their goals. And so they really took some time to kind of examine what the problems are, right? And they found 3 key factors.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but these were Latino students who were not completing their education.
Correct.
Is what they were. Okay.
By and large, the largest demographic they were looking at were Latino students. And again, and I will come back to this issue of whether this is the Latino program or not a little bit later. But this is where it started, and that was their larger demographic, right?
Okay. And what did they find? You said they found a couple of things.
Yes, they found three key factors that were common for the most part across all of these students. They were not seeking out academic advising. They were either avoiding it, or they weren't consistently seeking out their advising or their counseling from the academic side. They were not taking, or they were not successful in freshman comp or their English 1 course. And then they were first generation students, right? And so these three things create a kind of cascading set of obstacles, right? If you don't see advising consistently, you don't have a real plan. It's difficult to come up with your own plan. Listen, I went to college decades ago, and it was a la carte, and I graduated with some insane amount of hours that I didn't need to have, right? So, but if you don't see advising consistently, it's difficult to have a clear path, right? If you don't get good writing instruction, if you don't write well, first of all, you won't pass freshman composition, right? And then you can't write in your other college courses. Not to mention the fact that English 1, 1300 or your 1301, your comp course, is frequently a prerequisite for future courses. If you can't get past that course, it can prevent you from even registering, right? And then the other thing, the third point of being first generation students, is that they didn't have necessarily that go-to person in their family where they could go ask them, what do I do about this class? What should I do about this organization? How do I register? They didn't have necessarily that kind of a resource at home or in their neighborhood or in their family who could provide that kind of advice. And so those were the three things that Puente decided they needed to address, right? And for anyone listening who might not be sure, Puente does mean bridge, right? And the idea is to bridge from where you are to where you want to go, right? And now we've got a second idea to bridge them back, and let's build this kind of community support from our students coming back. But those were the three areas, right? And so they decided that they needed a three-pronged approach instituted in what Puente would become. That is consistent advice.
Yeah, I was just going to, before you go to the next one, because I think that this is a really important thing to kind of stop and make, just clarify, this is really important. I think the three things that you identified as issues for Latino students, because one, the writing, let's face it, a lot of the schools that some of our kids are coming out of when they're underserved, the teachers are doing their best to get by, and the systems that, are based on testing that scores and things like that. So, they may or may not come out with the skills, like you said, the writing skills needed to pass a basic course or to be able to turn in simple essays to a beginning college course. So I think that's really important that you focus on that. And the other thing that I thought was really important is, when you don't have the background, a lot of times if you're first generation student, you're the first student in your family to go to school or to go to away for school. There are things culturally that the family doesn't understand yet, that you haven't been familiarized yet. You're not familiar with the process. So the fact that you can identify that and say, this is an issue. This is a real issue for some of our students. We need to address that. I think it's really important. So didn't mean to interrupt you, but let's jump into what you were saying. So now the way that you're approaching it, how does that work?
Right. Listen, I appreciate you stopping me anytime. I think it's really important to kind of really examine each of these things along the way and recognize not only that those were the identifiable problems, but then or issues, then to consider, okay, where do we go from here and how do we begin to address those things, right? So that those three main issues lead to the three main prongs of the initial kind of Puente approaches, right? Which is consistent and continuous advising, right? Getting a plan developed. Number two, rigorous but supported writing instruction, right? That also becomes something more in line with students when you subscribe to culturally relevant and culturally responsive teaching approaches, an equity-based mindset, right? And not the old deficit model, but relying on also what students bring to class, right? Cultural capital and the asset-based approach. Students, that, at least back when I was in school, you were an empty vessel and they're going to fill you with all the knowledge you don't have, right? Without taking into account, students are coming to class with all kinds of knowledge and experiences, right? And a lot of this, I'm an English professor initially by trade. And so in the English departments for decades, there was the old saying, we're reading dead white guys, right? We're not reading women. We're not reading people of color. We're not reading women, people of different genders and all sexual orientation, right? It was a very narrow swath of reading lists. That's a simple thing you can do to help students see themselves in the curriculum, right? That's what I'm talking about with culturally relevant teaching. It's a small part of it, but it's an important part, right? So yes. Consistent and continuous advising, rigorous writing instruction that is equity-minded, but also culturally focused, right? And then the other thing is mentoring so that they have that resource available to them where they can go and get these kind of answers that will help them negotiate college and higher ed and see themselves as not only someone who's involved in academics, but a future profession. And if I can say, I'll close with this kind of summary portion by just saying the biggest thing about Puente right now for the students, to me, is we want them to recognize that they are part of a community, an academic community. They belong. They have cohort-based classes where they're with the same students for 2 pairs of classes. To get them engaged, we use the family also as well, and get them feeling like they belong here. And that's a big step towards helping them be successful.
Okay, and thank you for that. I think there was a lot of information there, a lot of great nuggets of information. So if you're listening, if you're watching this, if you're tuning in late, go back definitely and replay this audio, replay this part that we talked about the Puente program, or the Bridge program in English it would be. But this Puente program, I think it's really important to listen to kind of what the issues that were found were and how they're being addressed through this program, because I think a lot of our kids can benefit from it. But Adriana, I imagine for you, somebody that works in recruitment and that's out there doing the work every day, that having this program is kind of beneficial to you. And I would guess that it helps you to be able to tell parents and encourage students that they can be successful.
It is. I mean, everybody needs a support system, and this is the support system. A lot of my students are first generation, undocumented. Some of them have DACA. And they don't know those resources that are available to them. And telling them about this program, about all of the different resources really that Houston North has in place specifically for Latino students, specifically for our non-traditional students, all of these subcategories of students that we have are very beneficial. And just a lot of people just don't know. It's that lack of knowledge. Everybody kind of just has a mindset of like, okay, college, I'm thinking like 4-year university. You don't think about the 2-year university and what we have to offer and how we can bridge that gap between where you're starting and where you want to go.
Yeah, it's kind of like what they say a lot of times. It's what you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know, right? And
exactly.
If you've never been exposed, if nobody's ever told you, if you don't, like you said, like Christopher said, if you've never had some, that person in the family or who was like, hey, you know what, here's where you should connect. Here's what you should think about. Here are the programs that you should be thinking about. Then you just don't know. But, I think that's true that a lot of times, we think 4-year college, that's university, you have to go to 4-year college, but that's not always the case because the community colleges are a great start, I think,
right.
To kind of get your basics in, get yourself familiar with going to school, familiar with being in the college community, and then getting ready to go into the 4-year, to a 4-year program, a 4-year university, if that's what you want to do. And sometimes, you may choose that's not for you. Maybe you want to do like another program, a technical degree or something else
right.
that's going to benefit you as well.
Right. And one of the things that I really tell my students, because there's so many different pathways that you can choose when you're looking at higher education. We have those workforce degrees. We have the transfer degrees that take you to that 4-year college. We have just associate degrees. But one of the things that I remind students is college is not just about the classes. It's not just about you coming in and getting your education. It is a big part of it, but you're also networking. You're networking with staff, you're networking with faculty, you're meeting peers, you're learning new experiences, stuff that you just like, if you were staying in your comfort bubble, you just wouldn't have access to. And a lot of down the road, when you're looking for jobs or when you're looking for something specific, you come back to those people that you met in college and say, oh, hey, this person is able to help me with this. Let me reach out to them.
Yeah, I like to tell kids my son's age, like, you're building your network to some degree.
Right.
You're starting to build your network, but I think even beyond that too, it's like you're experimenting. You can go in and kind of figure out which career path is for you. So, sometimes you go into college, you don't have any idea. You think, and some students might think, I need to know what I'm going to be before I go into school, before I go to college. And like, that's not necessarily true. That's what college is for. It's for you to figure it out. You can take electives and take classes that you think, well, you know what, I might be interested in journalism. I might be interested in, criminal law, whatever it may be. You could take an elective course in that and then see, like, is this something that I'm really that interested in? And if it is, pursue it a little bit more. If it's not, that you have that time frame to say, you know what, maybe let me try something different. So what do you think about that, Christopher? Do you think that's true, that a lot of kids kind of feel that they have to know what they're going to be before they go to school?
I think there is a lot of pressure, first of all, and there's an interesting push pull there, right? Because you want students to experience these electives and things, but also you don't want to be like me and graduate with 192 hours for your bachelor's degree, right?
Right.
and there's a cost factor, right? So you want there to be a balance. You always have electives available, and I encourage students, take something you're interested in that's going to fulfill your elective credit for sure. We are also hoping that our mentorship can also help them see different opportunities, right? Different academic and professional opportunities. We also, as part of the Puente program, we do university visits, right? So we also want them to take those moments to kind of see other things. We have a lot of community activities as well. And talking about networking, I'm glad we brought this up because we see Puente as a larger community, right? We have a student motivational conference every year that is for all of the Puente students in California, Washington State, and Texas. And we had Cornell West on for one of the student motivational conferences. We just had Dolores Huerta as our keynote speaker for our second one. So in addition to being involved in some of these great moments and speakers, they're having opportunities to network with other Puente students in Houston, in Texas, in California, in Washington. And hopefully when we move out of this COVID era, we can do some more traveling and because these motivational conferences are also done in person. You can literally meet students from California colleges and universities, from our own backyard. And again, I'm sure you've all experienced this. It's a smaller world than you think, right? You run into people who, I wear my Lone Star College shirt, and I was in Colorado one time at an event, and somebody said, "Oh, I went there for 2 semesters." That was just random, right? So those kinds of things lead to who knows what kind of opportunities, right? You never know. But yeah, learning about yourself and where your interests lie, and taking advantage of real networking, it does start in college, absolutely.
And that's so true, because even now with digital media, with social media, things like LinkedIn, like you can meet somebody at a conference, at this event that you have, and connect with them. And then you never know. It is such a small world when you really think about it. And when you really start getting into the professional world, you find out that, dots connect, and people, will end up making referrals for you that you didn't anticipate and that you didn't expect. And it's just a matter of, how you come across, how you make an impression, and college also prepares you for that. But
you back up on your bullshit, don't belong to me. You acting all sleazy, I don't like what I see. I got all the game, don't get fucked in your brain. I can do you worse than you ever did me first.
My name is Angelica Casares.
And I'm Juan Alanis.
So if you're out here and you've left us a rating, Juan, you just told me right now we had a rating, right?
Yeah, I was saying that I was saying that people have a lot of opinions about our podcast and our like.
I don't know if they have it. Like, they're not talking about us. They don't have a lot of opinions, but they've left us a review.
No, I say that jokingly because we've gotten a few comments here and there.
Okay. So we're encouraging people to come leave us a rating and a review.
So
you're right.
One thing about us is that we are pretty thick-skinned. At least I consider myself to be pretty thick-skinned.
You are.
So
don't be mean to me.
So we take everything. We take all the feedback that you give us, and we really appreciate it, because because we feel like this is a learning experience for us as we're kind of learning to do this more and more. And, where we started a year ago is not where we are now, but who knows where we're going to be in a year from now if we're still doing this.
Yeah.
But
we're enjoying it.
We wanted to take a moment while you're listening to this podcast to just say thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to us, and to remind you to share this podcast and any other podcast that you might have enjoyed with your friends and family, and to let you know that we're on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, all that good places that you can go and listen to podcasts. But you can find all our links at juanofwords.com and on all our social media accounts.
Back up on my piece shit, I don't care if you don't like it. I'm really different, don't gotta show you I'm like that. Like the baby.
I do want to take a moment and kind of step back and have you guys tell me a little bit more just about Lone Star College itself, for the people who maybe are not as familiar, who don't know, exactly where Lone Star College is, what options are available there. So I'll let either one of you jump in and kind of tell me a little bit more about Lone Star College.
Yeah, so we're part of Lone Star College Houston North, and it's part of the Lone Star College system. We have 4 different locations, so it's kind of convenient for a lot of people. Our first one is our Fairbanks location, which is located on 290 and the Beltway. The second one is our Victory location. That one is located in Acres Homes. Our Greens Point location is located right on that Beltway and I-45. And then our brand new location, it's our Fallbrook location. If you guys haven't been there, go and tour it. It's amazing. It's a great facility. I love being there. That one is on Walters Road, right next to Fallbrook Church, near Veterans Memorial. We have every one of our locations kind of has different programs, and they have very program specific courses at each one of them. So our Fairbanks location is more like STEM programs. Our Victory location will be a lot more of the workforce programs. Greens Point will be more business, accounting, and then Fallbrook is our technology and our teacher prep location. And each one of our location has amazing resources. We have tutoring centers. We have our care center that provides you with just anything that you need, just general stuff for yourself outside of academics. We don't want anything that is at home to hinder you from being successful academically. So you can go in, grab snacks, all kinds of stuff. We have the Puente Program. We have mentor programs. We have a Panther Strong program that makes sure that you graduate within those 2 years. It puts you in a cohort. There's so many resources that are available at Lone Star College Houston North for all of our students, traditional and non-traditional, residents, immigrants, all kinds of students.
And I think keeping in mind the unique needs of some of the students that are out, that may be attending community college, not to say that everybody that attends community college is in the same situation, but for some of the students that may have some additional needs, you guys offer what are known as wraparound services. So tell me a little bit about what those are, and first of all, explain to people who maybe don't know what a wraparound service is, and then tell us what those programs are.
So those wraparound services are going to be things like the care center. We want to make sure that we service the student as a whole. Like I mentioned, we don't want you to just come in and go to class and leave. Like if you need something, there's so many resources that we have. Like I mentioned, that care center provides you anything that you need for your home. Maybe you need some emergency assistance, something came up, you're not quite sure how it is that you're going to pay for it. We have communities and schools. We have a representative at each one of our location. They provide any like personal goal setting, like if you just need help with study skills, those types of things. But then they provide things like emergency assistance with food or transportation or housing. There's so many factors that come into our students. There's so many things that they're having to deal with outside of school that we want to make sure that those are put into place so that they're not having to worry about how they're going to have dinner that night or, those types of things.
Yeah, and that's so critical because I think a lot of times we romanticize college a little bit. I think like we think like, oh, you're going to go off for 4 years and you're going to like study and you're going to come out, but you forget that, but even if you go away or you're going to school, that takes up a big chunk of your time. So even if you're staying at home, it takes up a chunk of your time to be in school, to study for school, to do your work. So that means that if you still have to work, you're going to be kind of stressed. Or if you're not working at that time, you're still going to need to figure out, what am I going to eat? How am I going to, if you have bills, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to, keep a roof over my head? So it's important to kind of think about those things. And so I think the wraparound programs for the folks who can benefit from them are really important. And even if you can't, even if you don't necessarily need them, it's good to know that they're there as an option for you in case you do need to at any point access them. So really, I think it's key that as a college, you're thinking about those things and that you're addressing those things, because, not every institution acknowledges the fact that, hey, you know what, in order to really embrace everyone and to make college accessible for everybody, you have to have more than just tuition or more than just classes and books and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to, some of the, just to continue with what Adriana was talking about, and with the wraparound services, I was at a conference once and they were talking about, and it was talking about gateway courses that allow students to come into college. Let's look at them as gateway courses rather than the old way we used to look at them, gatekeeper courses, right? Or when we were in school, the weed out courses, right? Freshman composition, right? First chemistry, or whatever the case may be. And there was a speaker at that conference who said, the old model of the 4-year college worked very well and still works very well for the people it was intended for. People who have some advice at home, people who have maybe the support that they need, people who went to high schools that prepared them for those 4-year colleges, right? All the traditional markers of a college freshman student, right? But that's not the case anymore necessarily for a large group of students, right? Everything has changed, right? And you have to meet students where they are. Meet the students where they are. Teach the students you have, not the students from some kind of idealized college system in the past that's not realistically addressing the real needs of students, right? And that goes for academics as well as things like the wraparound services, right? You need to meet students where they are in the classroom. You teach the students you have in school. You also need to meet the students in community-wise and in our college building, right? If they're hungry, they're not going to be successful, right? And some recent studies have shown that a large percentage of college students are missing two or even all 3 meals a day, right? Several days a week. And that's not a workable scenario. We have other things as well. Everything she mentioned just contributes to helping a student get those little things that may really prevent them from being successful, right? Whether it's something to eat, whether it's some other kind of dry goods or cleaning products that they need, or whether it's a $150 textbook emergency fund that they need to get their book, right? We're trying to kind of address each of those needs, be it just from a human standpoint as well as an academic standpoint, which is why we have all of these different initiatives and programs, by the way, which are not all mutually exclusive, right? They reinforce each other. You can be in a Panther Strong cohort that's also a Puente section, right? We try to tell students, the more you take advantage of all these things, the more likely you can find things that work for you and that will help you be successful. And I tell students all the time as well, listen, this stuff is already here. It's available to you. It's rolled into whatever the tuition and fee structure is, or it's free, or it's from the foundation, or whatever the case may be. Take advantage of these resources, and we'll all work together to help students be successful, because it helps our students, it helps their families, then it helps the community, the city, the state, the country. I mean, literally, the more educated population we have, the better off we're going to be.
Right.
Yeah, and the message I'd like.
Sorry,
go ahead, Adriana.
That
yeah.
These are not services that you have to pay extra for. Tutoring that we have on campus, the care center that we have on campus, everything is free for students to use. Once you're enrolled, all of those resources are there at your disposal.
Great. And the message I want people to walk away with, whether you're a parent or whether you're a student or somebody who's considering being a student, is that you have options. I think sometimes we depending on our circumstances, we might think, you know what, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that, or it's not possible for me to do that. There are programs out there that help you, that make it possible for you to be able to go to school and to complete a degree, whether it's a 4-year degree, whether it's a 2-year degree. There are options out there for you. Now I do, and Lone Star College has them. So look them up at Lone Star College. They definitely have options for you. I want you to tell me a little bit about the 8-week program or the 8-week semesters that you have.
It's funny because in amongst my kind of colleague group, they call me, oh, he's the 8-week guy, because I'm a complete convert, right? Because let me tell you,
Okay.
as a faculty member who's been teaching here at Lone Star College, Houston North, initially we were part of North Harris. Now we are our own college, Houston North. But I've been here 11 years and I've been teaching higher ed for 20 years overall. And we get stuck in our ways. How can you possibly teach something in 8 weeks? 60, a regular semester. And it just takes a second of thought to realize, oh my gosh, we teach summer school. We're already doing these things, right? Let's be flexible. Let's not be the old guy saying, get off my lawn, right? Let's do what's going to work for students. And I know I'm long-winded, but if you'll give me a second, Juan, I'll tell you some of the things that really contributed to this mindset. And I want to take a half step back and talk about, because you were asking about Houston North specifically. So we were satellite campuses for North Harris. And then after delving into some of our specific service areas, our zip codes, the high schools that are part of our service area, right, the demographics, the economics, we realized that several of these satellite campuses were serving a very similar set of our community members and our demographics. And so we wanted to design a college that was built to serve the people that we serve, right? And so Lone Star College, Houston North became the 7th college in the system. And we took a year and a half, which was a tremendous amount of work. Typically, this is done over a 2 or 3 year period. We took a year and a half and developed steering committees to come up with ways and new innovative ideas and approaches. We learned from other people, from other colleges. And the idea was, let's pick things that work well for students and let's see what we can implement, right? We did college visits to Odessa College. We went to Amarillo. They went to New York, Gutman College, went to several places. And then one of the things that came up was 8-week sessions instead of 16-week. Now, to be clear, in an 8-week session, you meet every day. In a 16-week session, you meet every other day. So it's the same amount of instruction, the same amount of contact hours, right? But here's where it becomes more beneficial. Let's say you're a student taking 12 hours. You're taking 4 classes, and you're going along, and everything's fine. It's hard, but you're taking your 4 classes. But then certain things happen. All the midterms happen about the same time. All the papers are due at about the same time. So there's already that struggle. But if you're looking at our students and our people, there are things, life can get in the way in the kinds of ways for our students that really become obstacles, right? There's an example that I use is, let's say I'm a college student at our college, and something simple happens, like the check engine light comes on. And let me go see what that is. Oh, well, there's a sensor and it's under the engine and it's going to be $1,200 to fix that. Well, I don't have $1,200. I can't fix that. Oh, guess what? Your inspection sticker's due next week. Okay, you take it to get inspected. Can't get this inspection sticker until you get the check engine light cleared for that O2 sensor. All of a sudden, you're driving around with a car with an expired tag or inspection sticker. Then you get a ticket. Then you get a warrant, right? All of a sudden, if you can't drive your car, then you can't get to school. Or if your car breaks down and you can't fix it, and you can't go to you can't go to your job. Now all of a sudden you don't have money. Well, let's say that happens in November, right? And all of a sudden you got to stop. Mm-hmm. In November, you got to drop 4 classes, right? You've been taking all 4 classes and now you have 0. You have nothing to show for your effort. So part of the idea with 8-week classes is you take 2 classes instead of all 4. You take 2 classes, and at the end of 8 weeks, you've successfully completed 2 classes. You've got 6 hours of credit in the bank, right? And studies show once students start building credit, their credit hours, they're much more likely to continue. Then they move on to the next 8 weeks. Then let's say something does happen in November, God forbid, but if it does, you're only losing 1 class or 2 instead of 12 hours worth of 4 classes, right? So the idea is you earn credits more quickly, right? While still getting the instruction time and the contact hours. It allows students to put credit hours in their quiver and to see themselves advancing and to encourage them to keep going. We are firm believers in the 8-week model, and that is one of the foundational ideas along with the mentoring, bringing in things like Puente, the wraparound services, all of those were part of creating Houston North.
Yeah, and the thing I like most about what you said, it's an option. It's another option for students, and it's not just being sticking to what has been the model just because it has been the model, but saying, you know what, let's figure something else out, another option that to make available for the students who need it, the students who could benefit from that.
Absolutely.
Let's see. I do have a few. Adriana, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, a lot of the students, because I work with like fresh out of high school students. And so when we're trying to talk about their schedule, a lot of the hesitation is, okay, how am I going to do the 4 classes at a time? I have to work. I have to take care of my siblings. I have to do all of these things. And one of the things I remind them is, hey, we have that 8-week model. You're only coming to school in a block of time. So if you want to come in the morning, our block is from 8:30 to 12:30. You have the rest of the day to do all of the other things that you need to do. You're just coming in Monday through Thursday at that time block. You're only worrying about 2 classes. And like Chris said, once midterms and finals come around, because that is stressful, you're only studying for 2 classes at a time. It's not you're trying to cram all 4 things into what like life that you're already living.
Mm-hmm. Your busy
So let
schedule.
me add to that. Let me add to that quickly because our advising departments, I'm going to give a couple of great shout outs. But again, Dr. Quentin Wright, our president, who led the steering committee, said, let's try some new things. Let's try some innovations, right? Our student service deans, right? Dean Clifford Johnson, Chris Dudley, some of our other outreach people, Raymond Kraft, they're doing such great things to let people know. Chris Dudley came up with a form. And by the way, these are our blocked classes, our cohorts, and our Panther Strong, where we give them a path. We say, look, we'll get you, if you go part-time, we'll have you done in 3 years. You go full-time, we'll have you done in 2 years. And Chris Dudley came up with a form to make it easier for students. Hey, what would you like to study? What time block would you like to go, morning, afternoon, or evening? And what campus do you want to go to, right? And based on that form, we can already get them they'll know where they're going to go, what time their classes are going to be, and they can start figuring, okay, on my pathway, all my courses will be in the morning between 8 and 12. I can work in the afternoons, or vice versa. Whatever's going to work for students. We're trying to do exactly what you said, Juan, is talk about all options, right? Finding ways to meet what they need to get successful. And all of these things, Panther Strong and Puente, and the changing models of semesters, all of these things are built to do that.
Yeah, and it's really empowering them to have choices, empowering them to really make it fit their lifestyles. I do have a couple of comments that I want to bring on screen real quick before we conclude the live stream. But if there's any final thoughts that you all have, please kind of think about those before we kind of close out. But we have Paula North, who says, Lone Star College Houston North family, such an excellent conversation so far. Networking is so important, and we strive to connect our Lone Star College students North with our community and vice versa. And you can find more information about the discussion that we're having at lonestar.edu/mentoring or lonestar.edu/Puente for the Puente program. We also have Lupe, who says, agree, having a pathway to specific campuses is a great way to begin the community building environment. And then Paula shared another link. We are here to support our students in any way possible. So she's talking about the CARE program as well. And then Ashley says, this is amazing. Thank you, Ashley. And then we have Paula, who says, this is so true. All of us at Lone Star College Houston North can work with your schedule and really cater to your personal needs. Our advisors are our deans, our mentors, and are here to help you. And then she gives the link to apply, which is /HN apply. And then one final comment says, Lone Star is an amazing opportunity for students with all its programs and support. So you guys are getting a lot of love and a lot of agreement from your team. So any final thoughts before we kind of conclude this conversation about what you want people to walk away with, or any thoughts on what was shared by some of the commenters?
Yeah. Go ahead, Adriana.
I would just, as part of recruitment, my job is to help you get into college. So if you need help with the application, if you need help with the financial aid application, anything that from the moment that you are submitting that application to the moment that you are enrolling into classes, any holds that you have, reach out to us. Our recruiters are able to meet with you one-on-one. If your parents have any questions, if anybody has any questions, you just have some doubts, our one-on-one sessions, we have them weekly, whatever fits your schedule. We're really here to just support you in any way that we can.
Wonderful.
All right, just want to let you know, I'm sharing my email address in the chat, as well as the page that was shared earlier, lonestar.edu/puente. Anyone can contact me about anything related to what we've been talking about in this show, or about Puente, or about Houston North in general, or about college in general, or about whatever. I'm here to help be a resource for our students and for families. So anyone can contact me. Just as a faculty member, as an English professor, as the Puente chair, in any one of those capacities. By the way, we're always at Houston North, all hands on deck. If we don't know, we'll find you the person who does know. We'll work with you. But my email address is in the chat, as well as the Puente page, where you can get more information about Puente and get in touch with advisors to get you enrolled. There is no application process. All you have to do is say you're willing to be a part of these cohorts with your students, and we'll get you involved with our faculty who are trained and Puente certified, as are our advisors. And we're so excited to be part of building this program at another college in Texas. And so I encourage everybody to look into it, reach out to us, and let us know what else we can do to help you be successful.
No, Christopher, pulling in your information, your email, and the website, lonestar.edu/puente, where people can get a hold of you and get in contact with you. But please, for those of you that are interested, please take them up on their offer, both Christopher and Adriana, and get in contact with them. Reach out to Lone Star College and ask those questions. If you have any questions, if you're just thinking, even if it's just something random, go out and ask, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction and get you registered for school. So important, such a critical thing for a lot of people, to have some type of education, because it's going to help you in the long run. And like I keep saying, whether it's a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, a specialized technical degree, something that's going to benefit you in the future, it's really important to look into. So I'm really grateful that I had a chance to speak with you both today and to talk to you about the different options available. Because like I said, for me, what I want people to walk away with is to say, you know what, there are options out there, and there is a way, there is a path to do this. So if you're kind of thinking, is there a path for me? Yeah, there is. There's one at Lone Star College. So look them up and ask either Adriana or Christopher or some of their other teammates who we see here in the chat. So if you have questions, if you want to look up the links, they are in the comments on either Facebook or YouTube. So just go look on the Juan of Words podcast to see those. Christopher and Adriana, thank you so much for being a part of this, and I appreciate your time, and I know people are going to reach out to you with questions.
Juan, thank you very much. Help us get to, we say, let's go from si se puede to si se pudo, right? From yes you can to yes you did.
Yes.
And we're excited, and thank you very much for having us.
All right, so there you have it, and that was it. That was a conversation that we had with Lone Star College and the Puente program. I hope you guys learned something or walked away with something, or can share a bit of information from the conversation that you just listened to. And as always, would like to thank our sponsor, Comcast, here in Houston, for sponsoring our program and for being a part of this, our small business and our podcast. So if you are in an area where Comcast provides internet or entertainment services, look them up and look at their options that they have available for you. But other than that, I'll just say go to our website, juanofwords.com. You can find all our links to our podcast where you can watch us. If you want to watch us in person, if you're listening, you didn't know that we have a video. We do actually do this in video too, so you can see us on Facebook or YouTube. And you can find our videos on juanofwords.com, as well as the rest of the links. And if you're so inclined, we would appreciate it if you leave us a positive comment or review, and you can do that on Apple Podcasts. But other than that, as Angelica would say, and with that, we'll see you next time. Hasta luego. Bye-bye.